They're doing something, right? Oh, there we are. Let me know when you're ready. You ready? Good morning. I'd like to call the Regional Transportation Commission meeting of January 14th, 2021 to order. First, I'd like to acknowledge the board members that are joining us today via call-in and note those who are present in the chamber. Maren? Sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm not. You can hear me. Verona's here.
Oh, we haven't called the roll yet. We're
Oh, okay. Yeah. Just to let you know, I'm sorry about that, Madam Chair.
no problem.
Or Vice Chair.
Maren's catching up.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Vice Chair March. For our members of the board who are calling in, if you would please confirm your presence as I call out your name. Mayor Pro Tem Stavros Anthony.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Isaac Barone.
Here. Thank you.
Councilman George Galt.
George?
Sure.
Thank you. And Director Christina Swallow.
Here.
Thank you. Present in person, we have the following. Please let them know you're here. Mayor Carolyn Goodman.
I'm here.
Commissioner Justin Jones.
Here.
Vice Chair Deborah March.
Here.
Mayor Kiernan McManus.
Here.
And Commissioner Tick Sigerbloom. Here. Thank you. Madam Vice Chair, it's yours.
Thank you, Maren. I'd like to begin the meeting by welcoming our two newest board members, Commissioner Justin Jones and Commissioner Tick Sigerbloom. We'll learn a little bit about them as part of the CEO's report, but I'd like to invite them to maybe introduce themselves and just share a minute about their background and interest in serving.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Really excited to serve on the board with you and all the other members of this board. It's transportation, transit, multimodal services throughout this valley are really something that I've cared about for a long time, and just looking forward to working with not only the board but with the amazing staff at the RTC to further those goals and work forward towards making this community better.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Commissioner Sigerbloom?
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair March. I have two personal goals. First, I'd like to work with the mayor to make sure that 95 from the Spaghetti Bowl south, or north, south, I guess we would call it, we build that as fast as we can build it. It is a total disaster, and we need to get that going. My second goal is to I have inner city. I'd like to slow down the transportation on those streets to 35 miles an hour and try to let the people that live in those neighborhoods survive, because we are getting killed right and left.
Thank you. Ms. Maynard, I'll now turn this over to you.
Excuse me. The first item on the agenda is to conduct your first citizens participation period in support of the Nevada State Governor's recommendations made on November 10th, 2020 to reduce the spread of COVID-19 and pursuant to the March 22nd, 2020 Declaration of Emergency Directive 006, which suspended the requirement to have a physical location for public meetings. And for the health and safety of the community, this meeting is being held virtually. To allow for public participation, the RTC is accepting public comments via email at publiccomments@rtcsnv.com. Comments could be submitted to be read aloud or to be added directly to the written record. Ms. Maren Dubois will read the public comments received by the RTC.
Thank you. And this is the first time set aside for public comment. The time is limited to comments that are on the agenda. Do we have any comments, Maren?
Thank you, Vice Chair March. We do have one comment for this period. It is from Mr. Greg Rule. Dear board members, my name is Gregory Rule for the SkyTrain Corporation. We are proposing a new transit-oriented development strategy to be considered for the 100 Plan. We would like you to consider an agenda item for discussion and/or possible action in the future. Our elevated system is designed to be constructed above traffic and buildings, transporting passengers between the historic West Side and downtown. The proposed Jackson Street and Main Street concourses add vital accessibility and act as a centerpiece for a TOD strategy. Our 1 mile demonstration project connects West Side neighborhood residents to downtown Las Vegas jobs and city services. The project also will bring an opportunity for tourist demand from downtown travelers to future family-oriented attractions, creating commerce and new business and employment opportunities as a result of this strategy. The train, stations, and neighborhood will be 100% powered by a solar panel array that functions above the elevated walk and rollway for bicycles and pedestrians, producing profitable overages of solar energy. We have already partnered with UNLV and their Solar Research Center engineers to construct a major solar power plant as part of the demonstration project line. Attached PowerPoint with a more specific 100-plan write-up, diagrams, and SkyTrain simulation video. Please contact me for more details about this exciting new TOD project for Las Vegas. And that concludes your public comments.
Thank you. Ms. Maynard?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. The next item is to approve the agenda. I would like to point out that we will be holding a closed-door session for item 40 to discuss the SEIU contract negotiations. Staff suggests that we take that item out of order and hear it following item 42, your final citizens participation period. Otherwise, the agenda is in order and ready for your approval.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to accept or to approve the agenda with those changes?
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Barone, aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. And that motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. The next item on the agenda is to elect a chair and vice chair. Last month, we said goodbye to Chair Larry Brown as his term ended on the County Commission. As a result, the board needs to elect a chair and vice chair.
This is Mayor Carolyn Goodman. I would like to nominate Mayor Deborah March as chair of this commission.
Thank you, and I would accept that nomination. Is there anyone else wishing to be nominated for chair? Seeing no one, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Barone, aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. And that motion carries. And I'd just like to share a few words if I could. I just want to say thank you to my fellow commissioners for your vote of confidence. I served on this board for more than a decade alongside many of you and continue to watch our region grow. Although our communities continue to expand with new homes, attractions, and businesses, the one thing that remains the same is the critical need for enhanced transportation infrastructure and mobility services. We heard through Southern Nevada Strong and most recently through RTC's onboard engagement that affordable and accessible transportation options remain a top priority for our community. We also know and understand that the demands for services outweigh our current resources. As we welcome the new year, you have my commitment that as chair of this board, I will continue to work with you, my fellow commissioners, the staff of RTC, our local governments, the Department of Transportation, and our community to help overcome the transportation challenges that our region faces and that have only been exacerbated by this current health and economic crisis. We'll continue to listen to our customers and our community, find long-term solutions for transit and roadway funding challenges, plan regionally, explore innovations and new mobility technologies, enhance our traffic management system, and expand our sustainability efforts. It's going to take all of us working together to move our community forward. I appreciate your support and willingness to lead with me. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. MJ?
Okay. The next, are we going on to the CEO report or?
Oh, no, let's talk about the
Vice Chair?
vice chair
Okay. All right, so
position. So I think, Mayor Goodman, would you like to make a motion to
Okay.
follow what we did in the last meeting, which was
Yes,
to,
maybe you could explain
Yeah.
that, or staff could explain what
and
occurred.
our attorney?
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you,
Thank you.
Mayor. I think given what we heard in the prior board meeting, it sounds as if that may be a sound approach for this board meeting as well. think at this point in time, a motion needs to be made to postpone the nomination of the chair, of the vice chair, and have that moved to next month. And given the prior board meeting, it seems like it makes a sound decision to have whoever may be interested will be given an opportunity to put themselves forward at that time.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I make I have a question? By statute, are the two committees, the RTC and flood control, do they have the same officers?
The boards are different, their purpose is different, and their statutes are different, Commissioner. So they are separate boards entirely.
So arguably, we could have a different chair and vice chair.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
And if I might, Madam Chair, if I could just speak to this. Initially, there was an appearance that we had one candidate, but then it became apparent that because the chair had asked at Flood, are there others interested? And we had two names also come up. So while there became three, that is why rather than take this time, and because we are so lucky to have two commissioners new today, that we postpone it, obey it, send it down, so that we could have an opportunity to hear from each one, all of us hear from each of the candidates, as to their different feelings about both Flood and the RTC and why they'd like to serve. That's it. So there was a unanimous vote to go ahead and defer, I don't know what the proper term would be, but the consideration for the vice chair position be postponed to give us that opportunity to hear from each
At the next meeting,
at the next meeting.
yeah.
And,
So-
and I'm sorry, Mayor, just to your point, I may have jumped the gun a bit in my assumption, but perhaps at this moment in time, there could be an inquiry as it relates to those that may have an interest in being the vice chair. If there are multiple individuals that have that interest, then a motion could be made to effectuate the result that you just articulated.
I'd like to ask anyone who's interested in serving as vice chair of the RTC to self-nominate now.
Madam Chair, I'd be interested in serving.
Thank you. And others?
Madam Chair, this is Vice Pro Tem Barone, and I'd very much be interested in this very prestigious position.
Thank you. And is Councilman Galt interested as well? Not hearing from Councilman.
It's hard to,
Thank you.
last time he spoke, he was silenced.
Is he, yeah, I can't see the screen to see the folks. Councilman Galt, are you interested in serving as vice chair?
Yes, I had a little trouble with my mute button.
Oh, okay. All right. So we have three individuals who would be interested. So perhaps we could look at the same as our attorney suggested at the next meeting, a presentation by these three individuals. Yeah,
So that would be my
we'll
motion.
move this. We'll obey this
That
to the
would be my
next.
motion to obey this to the next meeting date, which is
In
When's it?
February. February 11th.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have a
That's my
motion on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And anyone opposed signify by saying nay. And that motion carries.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is to receive the CEO report. For the first item of today's report, we are pleased to welcome two new board members. We're pleased to welcome Commissioner Justin Jones of Clark County to our board. Commissioner Jones was elected to the Clark County Commission in 2018 and previously served in the Nevada State Senate, where he was an assistant majority whip and chaired the Health and Human Services Committee. He is a practicing attorney, an avid runner, and cyclist. We look forward to his leadership, his input, and his knowledge. Welcome.
Welcome.
Next, we're pleased to welcome Commissioner Tick Segerblum of Clark County to our board. Commissioner Segerblum was also elected to the Clark County Commission in 2018 and previously served in the Nevada legislature for 12 years from 2006 to 2018. He is a third-generation Nevadan born in Boulder City. Commissioner Segerblum is a practicing attorney, and we look forward again to his leadership and his insight. Welcome. And I'll now turn it over to Mayor March if you'd like to add any other comments, Mayor.
Well, I
Okay, all right, great.
would like to welcome both of you and how grateful we are that you've joined us, and we look forward to your leadership. And if you'd like to say a few words to the RTC. Oh, we did at the beginning.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, great. And so I'm happy to congratulate Tracy Larkin-Thomason, NDOT Deputy Director for Southern Nevada, on her forthcoming relocation to Washington, D.C., where she's accepted a prestigious position with ITS America. With her leadership in technology and innovation projects here in Nevada, we look forward to the knowledge and experience she will bring to a national organization. We've worked very closely with Tracy over the years while she was at NDOT, where she began her career in 1987 in the right-of-way division. Most recently, she spent the last several years as NDOT's lead convener and collaborator in Southern Nevada. Her many accomplishments include working directly with the RTC, local governments, business community, and industry stakeholders on many successful and innovative partnerships. She helped establish the Go NV Summit, engaged with elected leaders on I-11 and roadway projects. She generated awareness and created programs that enhance diversity and inclusion, not only at NDOT, but throughout the industry. And she invested in pedestrian safety programs and efforts throughout Southern Nevada. We can't say enough. Thank you, Tracy, for your cooperation, open lines of communication, a get-it-done attitude, which we always appreciated, and service to NDOT, agency partners, and the residents of Nevada. While we will certainly miss having you here in Nevada, we look forward to working with you on a national level.
Tracy is here in the room. I'd like to ask her to stand, and maybe we could give her a good round of applause for all of her leadership here in Southern Nevada. We've appreciated the partnership. And we will miss you.
And Madam Chair, if
Yes,
I could add a comment.
absolutely.
I wish you wouldn't leave us, but I'm thrilled that you've gotten such a wonderful offer and look forward to the future. But you have been so stable for us, and the connection with NDOT and the follow-through always by you in every meeting, everything asked of you. You're a remarkable professional, and on behalf of the community, thank you really very, very much. Good luck to you, and don't forget this is home. You're just visiting there for a few years.
Is there anyone else wishing to comment?
Madam Chair, this is Mayor Pro Tem Barone. Ms. Larkin, on behalf of the city of North Las Vegas, we are going to miss you dearly. I think that Ms. Larkin has certainly shown the way with her own with her own way of looking at things, her own big ideas. She's helped open up an entire large industrial section of our city. The vision that she has shared to make this not just land, but to make it valuable, and taking our city and probably I think the entire valley forward in a new direction. Her accomplishments, her part. I don't know if there's ever going to be like a plaque for Ms. Larkin somewhere out there, but I think there should be, especially on those interchanges out there at I-15 and 215. Couldn't have done it without you, and it's meant for hundreds of jobs in my city. But more than anything else, we're looking at a future, and that cannot be understated. Thank you very much, Ms. Larkin. You certainly appreciate. I mean, you certainly deserve the very best going forward, and we will miss you. We're always happy to have you back.
Maybe we better name an interchange for her. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Feels like 2020 is still here because we are very sad to say goodbye to Craig RABORN. He's the director of the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Craig has been with the RTC for more than 5 years and has overseen many important planning studies and initiatives for Southern Nevada, including On Board, Access 2050, the Regional Transportation Plan, and Southern Nevada Strong. He has forged strong partnerships and collaborations with the local planning departments to create a brighter future for our region. So Craig is moving on to a bigger market. He was offered a big job in Houston, Texas, as the director of the MPO there, and we wish him nothing but the best. Really want to congratulate him. He's just been a tremendous asset to the RTC in this community.
Is he with us today, or Craig?
No.
Oh, okay. We are grateful for his contributions. He's really been a significant partner to all of the communities heading up the MPO here, and we appreciate his leadership and the work that he's done to elevate us. And clearly, the work he's done here has set him up to go to a bigger and
Correct.
better job. We just want to keep these people. When we
Agree.
So, yeah, that's true.
If I
not
could have
better.
tied him up into the basement, I would have.
Yeah. So we're grateful to him, and thank you very much, Craig, if you're listening in.
And a few weeks ago, we received news that we're being awarded a $6 million grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation's Federal Highway Administration. The Advanced Transportation and Congestion Management Technologies Deployment Program funds early deployments of forward-looking technologies that can serve as national models. We will expand our existing Integrated Safety Technology Corridor project, currently along I-15, to a 5-mile segment on US 95 between I-15 and Summerlin Parkway. We will deploy, evaluate, and refine the use of emerging technologies and data analytics, including various wrong-way driver sensors, occupancy detection sensors in HOV lanes, and additional overhead signs that will warn motorists about incidents, speed reduction, and lane closures ahead. These methods will help to enhance safety, reduce travel times, improve trip reliability, and overall efficiency on our freeways. We look forward to providing these benefits to commuters by working with our project partners, which include Nevada Department of Transportation, Nevada Highway Patrol, UNLV, and Waycare. And I just want a big kudos to the team, RTC. It was a really difficult lift. They did a tremendous job. So thanks to all that were involved. And Mayor, and Madam Vice Chair, this concludes your CEO report.
Thank you, Ms. Maynard. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item, which is the director's report from MnDOT.
Good morning, members of the board. Is my PowerPoint up?
Not yet. Now it is.
Okay, great. It's good to see the new leadership of the RTC board, and I'm looking forward to working with the board as a whole, and in particular, working with the new members as we start our relationship in this space on transportation in Southern Nevada. Next slide, please. As I do every meeting, I'm going to start with focusing on safety. 2020 was a deadly year on Nevada's roadways, as we've talked about the whole year. The year-end data shows a 3% increase in fatalities statewide, including a 20% increase in unrestrained motorist fatalities. There was a sharp downward trend in March when traffic volumes plummeted due to the COVID-19 pandemic, followed by ups and downs throughout the whole year. Clark County's fatality rate remained about the same as 2019, and there was actually a 12% decrease in unrestrained motorist fatalities, even as that number tracked upwards statewide. I should note that although Clark County's fatality rate remained about the same in 19, that actually is not a good indicator considering our traffic volumes on the network are down overall for the year. I also wanted to, I do have a couple more statistics and a story, but I did want to pause and acknowledge one of the fatalities, or I should say 7 of the fatalities that occurred last year in Clark County. Last month when I was giving our safety report, I gave all the data, and within an hour of getting off of our RTC board meeting, heard the terrible news of the loss of 5 cyclists on our roadway network in Clark County. I later also learned that 2 other people lost their lives in Clark County that day due to roadway violence. And I just want to remind everybody, we all share responsibility in the roadway network. Whether you're walking, whether you're biking, whether you're driving, we all share responsibility, but primarily that responsibility lays with those of us who operate the vehicles on the roadway. It is our responsibility to make sure that we're always sober, that we're alert, that we're not distracted, and that we're driving safely on the roadway, regardless of what the speed limit may say. The speed limit is the limit. It's not a guideline, it's not the minimum, it's the limit. And alternately, the 3-foot law, that's the minimum. We should always give people as much space as possible and move over whenever you can. Slow down if you can't move over. There's a gap in traffic shortly behind you, and you'll be able to move over and give that adequate space to the cyclists or the pedestrians. I'm going to end there on the safety. This is something that is so critically important for us to remember as drivers, and I think sometimes drivers forget that. As an active road user myself, a bicyclist, a pedestrian, and a runner, it always amazes me how little distance is provided when people pass me, despite the fact that there is adequate room on the road for them to move over. Next slide, please. All right, 2021, there was a little bit of good news at the end of 2020, I should say 2020, not 2021. The end of 2020, the president signed into law a $2.3 million COVID relief and government funding bill. In that bill, state DOTs nationwide will receive $10 billion in emergency aid to help backstop the losses that we've seen in the state revenue, the state highway revenue. Early estimates indicate that Nevada will receive approximately 90 million of that 10 billion. And some of that, we're estimating between 20 and 25% of that will be directly suballocated to our large urban areas, with the majority of that suballocation going to Southern Nevada. We don't yet have the final figures on that, but we will update you as soon as we have them and have more information at the February RTC meeting. I should note that this funding is relief funding. It is 100% federal with no match required, and it is far more flexible than our typical federal funding, as they recognize that it is a backstop to the reduction in our state revenue sources, which is far more flexible than federal. So we're very excited about this additional funding. And in addition, that bill also included a full year of funding for the FAST Act through the end of this federal fiscal year. Next slide, please. I wanted to let the RTC board know what we are looking at for the bills, the NDOT-sponsored bills in the legislative session, which begins on February 1st. We have 4 bills that are moving forward. AB 12, which will revise provisions governing the Deputy Director and Chief Engineer of NDOT. Specifically, it changes the qualifications and opens the door for us to ensure that we're getting the best candidates possible, which is critically important. As you heard, we've had some retirements, and I'm going to touch on that a little bit later. So regarding qualifications of the Deputy Director and Chief Engineer. AB 41 aims to revise provisions related to the operation of certain oversized vehicles. This is clarifying how we measure oversized vehicles and also providing for additional oversized with proper protocols. AB 53 will modify requirements for the callback system on certain highways, specifically on our interstates. Currently, we're required to have it. We're looking for flexibility to make sure that we're providing safe communications for everybody with the best technology available. And AB 54, which will establish an advisory committee to study issues and make recommendations to state and local agencies to improve traffic safety. This mirrors an existing committee that resides within NDOT. It's a federal requirement to have a safety committee, and so we have it. It's within NDOT. This would elevate that committee on a statewide basis so that their recommendations have stronger voice and stronger backing in terms of when we go legislatively or otherwise. It is an existing committee that meets publicly quarterly. If you're interested in seeing what the committee is currently doing, I'm happy to invite you to some of those meetings. And of course, we would love your support on all of these 4 bills. We are also closely monitoring developments on 2 transportation funding bills, in particular, sponsored by the Legislative Committee on Energy. One would amend the state constitution to expand the permissible uses of the State Highway Fund. I know both of these bills have been previously discussed by your own team at the RTC, and you should know that we're tracking and working closely with the RTC. The second bill would require NDOT to study and form a dynamic stakeholder working group to comprehensively assess the future of transportation funding in our state. You may recall over the last year and a half, there's been a significant effort to look at how do we long-term fund our system while we also address all of the equity concerns that are already involved in funding of our system, and also moving forward as we look at achieving our greenhouse gas emission goals. So really unpacking that and finding a way to ensure sustainable funding for the transportation system. Next slide, please. I'm going to cover this one just real briefly because MJ already covered it, but this one shows the extent of that grant, the project limits of the grant that MJ mentioned, the Advanced Transportation and Congestion Management Technologies Deployment Grant, and we are so very happy to be a partner with the RTC on this. We've been partners for years, and I particularly am grateful for our partnership in expanding the use of technology to really improve the operations of our systems throughout Southern Nevada. Next slide, please. The month of January is recognized as National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month, and I am proud to tell you that NDOT is in the process of developing and rolling out an agency-wide policy and initiative to really address human trafficking. Unfortunately, Nevada is first in the nation on human trafficking per capita and 7th in human trafficking overall. Neither of those are statistics that we can be proud of, or I mean, really, they're terrible. And so we at NDOT are in the process of developing a policy and some initiatives. We're looking at an NDOT team training video. We're also looking at installing signs at our NDOT public facilities and rest areas. And we're very thankful for the partnership with the RTC, because I know the RTC has been working on this longer than we have, and we're learning from the RTC and appreciate you working with us on this. Next slide, please. All right, we actually have 2 retirements, and one has already occurred. Cliff's last day was on Tuesday, and Cliff was our Deputy Director of Project Delivery, and then TRACY LARKIN-THOMASON was our Deputy Director of Operations and Maintenance, and she'll be retiring at the end of the month, as MJ mentioned. They both, Cliff has over 20 years of service, or had over 20 years of service, and TRACY has more than 3 decades of service. We will definitely miss them both, and no one will be able to exactly fill their shoes. But I am looking forward to how we adapt and evolve. And I should note, personally, I'm sad to see TRACY go. She reached out to me before I was even appointed to help make sure that I came on board ready, prepared, and with as much information as I could possibly have in the short time frame before the appointment, and has really served to help us navigate the last 2 years, and in particular, how do we keep our team safe, and how do we address the local concerns during this pandemic. And then, next slide, please. I did want to announce an appointment, or actually 2 appointments. I am pleased to announce that one of those positions has already been filled. Darren Tedford has been appointed to serve as NDOT's Deputy Director for Project Delivery. In last January, I informed the board about his promotion to Assistant Director of Operations, and he has shined in that role. He has over 27 years experience with the department, beginning his career as a summer intern in the Materials Division. He came on as an employee in 1994 in roadway design, and has worked in signs and striping and the Materials Division. He has a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from UNR, and is a registered PE in Nevada. And then hot off the presses, literally I just sent the emails to the teams this morning, so I don't have a slide yet, but Jeff LaRude, who has been our Assistant Director of Engineering for just a couple of months now, has been appointed as Acting Deputy Director of Operations and Maintenance. And that is very critical, because that role, the Deputy Director of Operations, is required to be located in Southern Nevada, and also serves as an additional stakeholder, or additional contact for all of our stakeholders in Southern Nevada. Jeff has been with the department for 25 years, including roles in roadway design, traffic operations, project management, and most recently, a couple months ago, I announced Assistant Deputy of Engineering. And he has spent, I believe, 5 years, the last 5 years of his career in Las Vegas, so he is very aware of the challenges that we face in Southern Nevada, and is committed to listening to you and being an additional point of contact if you need it. Of course, I'm always able to listen to your concerns and your challenges, as is our other Deputy Director, Cole Mortensen. We're here for you, and I look forward to working with you moving forward. And the last slide is just my concluding. I'm happy to answer any questions or comments.
Thank you, Director Swallow. Are there any comments or questions? Obviously, the loss of life by searchlight by the bicyclist, that was devastating to our community and to the bicycle community, and we appreciate that you brought light to that. And we need to work on those kinds of issues of educating our drivers on the road. I'd also like to ask, I know you're getting ready for the legislative session, and obviously the issues that you're looking at that may impact Southern Nevada are important to us. And so I know you have a committee, a working group, and perhaps RTC or our MPO could have some presence as you're working on some of those issues that will impact the Regional Transportation Commission. Thank you. Any other?
Madam Chairwoman? Oh,
Yes?
Madam Chairwoman?
Yes.
This is Mayor Pro Tem Barone. Yes, thank you very much for your indulgence, Madam Chairwoman. Yes, Director Swallow, I just wanted to say, on behalf of the residents of North Las Vegas and everyone who drives I-15 southbound every morning or maybe not in the morning, I wanted to extend our sincere thank you for the expeditious and rather involved reparations at that bridge on I-15 South that was definitely posing quite a hazard. It was repaired right on time, as everyone said it would be done, and has greatly increased safety. So thank you so very much. Now people do not have to try to avoid those gigantic potholes, you know. So thank you very much for that. Also, we want to thank, going forward, again, it's very disappointing for all the increase, of course, of fatalities. Some of them which were in North Las Vegas, despite NDOT's very proactive work, especially in Ward 1, to provide pedestrian bridges, little things in the middle that keep people from trying to do jaywalking. And very much, I look forward to the coming work by NDOT in our urban core, just as Commissioner Seger-Bloom mentioned. We definitely have a lot of work in our urban core, and I'd like to thank, if I have not had a chance, I'd like to of course, welcome Commissioner Seger-Bloom and Commissioner Jones. I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments or questions? We'll go ahead and close that section. Next is the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. The next item is to approve the consent agenda. This consists of items 6 through 37 and can be taken in one motion.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments or anything that anyone wishes to remove from the consent agenda? Can I have a motion?
May I make the motion to accept the consent agenda numbers as indicated?
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Barone, aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. And that motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Item 38 is to approve and adopt the 2021 through 2015 Regional Transportation Plan. Mr. Andrew Kelman, Manager of Transportation Planning for the RTC, will provide the update. Mr. Kelman?
Thank you, MJ. Andrew Kelman, Manager of Transportation Planning for the record. This item is to review and adopt the Access 2050 Regional Transportation Plan, or RTP for short. Federal regulations require the RTP to be updated every 4 years, and this update is now due. The RTP must have a planning horizon of at least 20 years looking into the future, and this plan looks out into 30 years into the future, out to 2050. With this long-term outlook, the purpose of the RTP is to identify our region's long-term transportation needs, and then to identify the specific projects and programs for implementation during that time. The process of developing the RTP started about 2 years ago when the RTC conducted a transportation vision survey. Hearing from our community is essential to ensure that the plan reflects our community's priorities. When the survey closed in December of 2018, over 12,000 responses were received, making it one of the largest reviews ever conducted of local preferences about transportation. One of the main findings of the Vision Survey was that residents want more investment in all forms of transportation. Responses to multiple questions in the survey showcased the need for investment in roads, transit, bicycle, and pedestrian facilities. And this is important because a lot of the survey respondents, the majority of respondents, were car owners and drivers. They drove every single day. In terms of prioritizing investments, with the majority of respondents being car owners, many residents describe a desire for improvements in road maintenance, improved safety, and fewer traffic jams. But importantly, a majority support investments in transit and walking and biking infrastructure, even those who drove daily. And just a note on this graphic is that respondents were able to select more than one option, so they don't add up to 100%. And the 5 here were out of 8 total options. So then these survey findings were then synthesized and used to guide development of the plan. Access 2050 was developed with a focus on implementing the survey investment priorities into guiding the overall mobility strategies. So the top 5 primary strategies closely match those survey priorities that we received. There are also secondary strategies included in the plan, and these have been assembled through coordination with federal, state, and local agencies to ensure that the plan meets all regulatory requirements. It should also be noted that these strategies were not developed in isolation at the RTC. This table shows how the plan reinforces similar goals developed and included in local agency comprehensive plans throughout Southern Nevada. And it also displays consistency with the Southern Nevada Strong regional plan. The vision survey was also key in developing the onboard mobility plan. Onboard is a long-range plan that identifies how enhancements to the current bus system, high-capacity transit, biking and pedestrian investments, and emerging transportation technologies can improve future mobility for residents and visitors in the future. The individual projects that make up the onboard plan, there are 64 projects included in the onboard plan. Those projects will be included on an unfunded project list as part of this RTP because they represent our region's future mobility vision, but they do not have an available funding source at this time. And this is a common feature of regional transportation plans nationwide, is to develop and maintain an unfunded project list, and onboard will function as our region's unfunded project list. The primary purpose of the RTP is to identify the long-term transportation needs for our region. As one of the fastest growing regions in the country, our needs will largely be driven by forecasted future population growth. Southern Nevada will surpass 3 million residents by the year 2050. And this graphic displays the location of that forecasted population growth. So darker areas on this map will receive more population in the future. And as we can see, most of that growth is concentrated outside of the 215 Beltway, where new development is occurring. This rapid growth in population can then strain the region's transportation system. And it does this by increasing automobile travel. All areas of Southern Nevada will experience an increase in travel by the year 2050. The largest increase in travel will be additional trips occurring just outside the resort corridor area. So on this map, the resort corridor area is identified in green, and the area in red will experience the largest travel increases. The area in red will have a 66% increase in automobile travel over and above today's levels by the year 2050. To meet these regional growth challenges, Access 2050 proposes a balanced investment program of over 200 projects. This map helps provide an understanding of what projects are included in the plan. And this is an important note, is that the plan does not include every single transportation project. It only includes those projects that will utilize federal funding and some of the larger locally funded projects. And also there's some projects included in the plan that cannot be mapped. The plan includes funding for RTC's fixed route transit fleet and funding for some programs like the Safe Routes to School program. We can't put those on the map, but they are included in the plan. And projects in Mesquite and Boulder City are included, but they're just not on this map. But taken together, all of these projects included in the plan help get people to the places they need and want to go. One way the plan achieves this is by reducing congestion. And we can see this by comparing the no-build and the build scenarios. These maps both display traffic in 2050 and show that the RTP has a significant impact on reducing future congestion. Another way of looking at these same congestion benefits is at the individual or person level. Average time spent driving today is currently 32 minutes per day in Southern Nevada. By the year 2050, that will increase to 36 minutes per day with this plan's investments, so with the projects included in the plan. But without the plan's investments, this would increase to 42 minutes per day by the year 2050. Another central benefit of reduced congestion is improved air quality. Per federal regulations, the plan must not contribute to any violation of air quality standards. This plan has met these standards by demonstrating that travel-related emissions are less than the established budgets for carbon monoxide, PM10, and ozone. So in summary, all of these various inputs fed into development of the plan, and the document outlines a vision that results in safer roads, fewer delays, more choices, and a stronger economy. And that concludes my presentation. RTC staff recommends adoption of the Access 2050 RTP.
Thank you, Andrew. Commissioners, any questions or comments about this? Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. In looking at this, do we look at the transportation from California to Nevada on I-15?
Yes, that's a very significant impact and input into this plan. This plan also includes the Express West high-speed rail project. So one of the keys of that project is it needs to be included in this regional transportation plan. So we have included it here. It's all privately funded, but we've included it. And we do note a lot of projects on I-15 to help that interstate access.
And I apologize that maybe not on this issue, but do we talk to San Bernardino County? Are we looking at what they're doing on I-15? I mean, to me, the biggest disaster we have is the fact that people can't get back and forth to Los Angeles on Sunday. And going forward, that's just going to be a disaster. It's already a disaster, but it's going to get a bigger disaster.
Madam Chair, personally, we have not spoken directly to, I mean, we work with all of the jurisdictions, not only here in our state, but also states that are our neighbors. But I don't know, David Swall, if you've had any direct conversation.
Yeah, so we've, not directly with the California counties, but we do look at the access, and we, as you know, we monitor the traffic flow on I-15 as well as US 95 and I-11 coming in and out of town. We watch the numbers on a daily basis and a weekly basis, and then look at what the travel times are, particularly to Southern California, and how much of a travel delay there is on any given weekend. We're watching to see how that happens. I know there's been projects proposed in the past, but that's something that really needs to go between Caltrans and the state and NDOT.
And if I might, Madam Chair and Manager, we've been working on this for 20 years at the city, in a conversation when Rudy Monfelbaum was the predecessor to our wonderful Mrs. Swallow now, trying to engage the state to work with California. It's been ongoing through the U.S. Conference of Mayors, but also even at the White House, both in the administration, the Obama administration, in the Department of Transportation, and in the Trump administration. The most important thing they have continued to tell us is they're obviously, I don't think there's anybody that's interested in Nevada except Nevadans, and yet the country is interested in the movement of freight. And so what we've been doing, and certainly our city manager now, former head of our public works, Jorge Cervantes, had created a map which we flooded Washington with, showing the access and the need to widen the 15 into California. That's been on the books, been a plea from Southern Nevada for so long. And of course, it does mean it's Caltrans. And certainly they are aware of this. They're not interested in helping tourism and convention business here. Yet we get almost 33% of our tourism traffic comes from Southern Nevada. And of course, because of the 7 states that are connected with the Colorado River and the water and all the irrigation that's needed in Southern California. I have always asked that we work very closely with the region to get California to open up and let this happen. But it's something that absolutely needs to be ongoing. We've got the support of U.S. Conference of Mayors in the adjoining states, and we all see the rationale to move traffic where we're backlogged in the harbors of containers moving materials, furniture, technology, everything from the Far East to this country. So it really, when you go to the highest level, which we've been trying to infiltrate in the Department of Transportation to see can they help us with federal monies that sadly we have to push over to California. But they're not so interested. They're more interested in obviously quick transit from Los Angeles up to San Francisco. So it is ongoing, and I'd be happy to share with you everything we're doing.
Yeah, well, it just seems to me we ought to call our governor to call their governor, and let's have a conference, because Las Vegas is stuck, and we can't continue to grow unless we get California to build on their side. And if we have to send some of our money over there, whatever it takes, it just seems like that ought to be one of our goals. And I'm not sure if it's RTC's goal, but somewhere in the state of Nevada, we have to really push California and prod and encourage and do whatever it takes, including give them money to build that third lane or fourth lane in California.
Thank you. You know, and as we look at the projected growth out to 2050, clearly there's going to be more and more demands on RTC for service and service delivery, and we just have to start working on where those resources are going to be coming from in order to be able to meet those needs. And I agree with the commissioners. We need to continue with those dialogues, like with the Conference of Mayors or our governors and transportation departments as well. And certainly I think I'd like to encourage the state NDOT to work closely with the RTC as they move forward with an agenda for the next legislative session here in Nevada as well. Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Gilman, for your presentation. This is a great study. I know it's spent a lot of time on it. I'm just going to note for the record that in looking through the proposed projects for the county, I have some concerns with the timelines and the priorities, and that's on me and the county to clarify those. In particular, some of the prioritization of certain roadways over certain trail systems and multimodal transit is concerning. And so I'm certainly going to support this today, but I'm going to have some internal discussions with our own team to make sure that the county is headed in the right direction to meet the goals of multimodal transit.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, or can I have a motion to adopt the plan?
Madam Chairwoman, before we do this, I just have a quick question.
Commissioner.
I haven't had a, yeah, this is Mayor Kim Barone. Just real quick for the presentation, thank you very much. Do we actually have also different scenarios that would change projection, considering, you know, the emergent, well, some of them are actually existing technologies, but emerging technologies that would also either help or hinder, you know, financing when it comes to the RTC, in conjunction, of course, with the increased traffic flow. What I mean is, of course, you know, we do have, you know, fuel revenue from fuel, but as we go more and more towards electric vehicles, hopefully, you know, for our environment, right, that's gonna be a little bit more of a challenge. But then again, on the other hand, we have possible driverless platforms that will be electric and may actually be way more responsive, I think, to the needs of transportation within the valley. I'm just wondering what, how should I say, measures have been put into the calculations and the estimations.
Andrew?
Yeah, Madam Chair, through you. Commissioner, when we put together the revenue estimate, we did note those trends in increased fuel efficiency and electrification of the fleet. And so those were baked into our revenue estimate out to the year 2050. But we did not develop multiple scenarios. There was just one revenue scenario developed.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Can I have a motion to approve the plan? So moved. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Barone, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. And that motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is to receive a financial update for the first quarter of fiscal year 2021. Our CFO, Mark Trostel, is here to provide the update.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, MJ. We'll dive right in and look at our revenue situation. Oh, good. This chart here shows a comparison between our current financial situation for sales tax. The red line, you can see the dramatic decrease in March and April in our sales tax. That was the time period we were actually compiling our budget for fiscal 21. And you can see now that that has not continued but gone up. The red line there in the last 3 months, 4 months really, has improved. We're down around 10% decline in sales tax. In fact, September was only down 6%. So we're still down, but not as bad as we had originally projected. Our next slide will show the sales tax for the first quarter of fiscal 21, down 9.6% versus the 31% decline we had originally budgeted. If we go to motor vehicle fuel tax, you see a similar comparison. You see that we went clear down in April to, we bottomed out at 47.2% decline, and we've recovered up towards 10% decline here in September of 2020. So better news, but still down. And then the first quarter, you can see in 2021, we're down 13% versus a 43% budgeted amount. We go to FRI, fuel revenue indexing, and very similar. We're down 12% in the first quarter. And for FRI2, the only reason that we're up a little bit, well, 24%, is because there was an increase from 3.4 cents per gallon for FRI2 up to 4.8 cents per gallon in the rate. So that's what accounts for that increase in FRI2 revenue. We go to the transit fees, which is mostly made up of transit fares. You can see the decline to the far right from 19 to 20 and 21. You can see we declined from about $76 million in revenue in 19 down to $40 million in 21. So that's a big hit, about a $36 million hit in transit fare income. Then we look at our ridership on the transit system, and that's very consistent. You see that we're running right around 50% of our normal ridership quite consistently over the past several months. We go to look at that revenue for the fixed route fare revenue. We're down 52% compared to our budget of 47%. So a little worse. Like I said, that was a big hit to our revenue. So to address that in the fiscal 21 budget, we have decreased the fiscal 21 budget from the pre-pandemic budget. You can see we had budgeted $261.7 million. We dropped that about $33 million down to $228.6 million. Our capital expenses, we decreased those by about $40 million. We go to the next slide. Thank you. You can see there that we dropped that significantly. A lot of those expenses are grant funded, so the net decrease there was about $10 million to the bottom line for capital. We go to the next slide. Before we go into our roadways, this is really neat. We have some good news to share regarding our transit system. The National Transit Database recently released their most current data, which ranks the RTC transit system as the most cost-efficient bus-only system among the top 50 transit agencies. This means that the RTC uses fewer tax dollars per transit ride and operates at an overall lower cost per trip than any other agency in the NTD top 50. And just for kicks, the 2019 numbers in the NTD report, the cost was $2.74 per ride for the RTC. The number 2 agency was San Francisco Muni at $3.19 per ride. And then just a few of our neighbors, Valley Metro in Phoenix was $4.59. Los Angeles was $4.73. And Utah was $7.46 per ride. So you can see $2.74 might seem high, but we're number 1. We have the lowest cost, most efficient. So that was really good news. We'll move into the Streets and Highways Progress Report. This slide here shows our revenue sources, sales tax, motor vehicle fuel tax, and FRI. Since 2014, when the fuel revenue indexing program kicked off, 522 projects have been started, with 275 of those being completed. If we go to the next slide, since 2014, we have awarded more than $1.6 billion in roadway contracts to local jurisdictions from sales and fuel tax. That's $1.5 billion in fuel tax and $86 million in sales tax. This graph shows how the cumulative dollars under contract compared to our total roadway revenues and expenses. In 2021, we are projecting the total cumulative revenue to be $1.8 billion, and our contract amount is over $1.6 billion, and our total expenses are a little over $1 billion.
Excuse me, could I just follow up on that slide?
Yes.
So are you saying we're 200 million, or 200, is it 200 million that more income than we're spending?
That's correct. The 1.8 billion actually includes debt capacity. So that's a projection to show that we have the capacity to spend the money that we're contracting. So that revenue is kind of in a government way. We look at debt capacity or debt as a revenue source, as a source to spend. So we don't have to borrow all that money in that, but that includes debt.
Okay, but so clarify for me. So we could be spending 200 million more, but that would be partially bonds?
Yes, we could be correct.
Okay, so if we don't spend it this year, does that mean we can spend it next year?
Yes.
And do we look at that and say, we're going to have $200 million next year, and let's start looking at how we're going to spend it?
Absolutely.
And
we
then
look at that at our 10-year projections.
And then do we tell the local jurisdictions, look, here's $200 million you can start thinking about?
Well, I think we'll also look at the sustainability of the system, and some of that is sort of the cushion for the sustainability going forward long-term.
Yes.
Is that?
Commissioner, we work closely with all the jurisdictions almost on a monthly basis to update the CIP, the Capital Improvement Program. Recently, when we programmed $2.1 billion for the next 10 years, that is subject to change based on what the jurisdictions see as a priority within their jurisdictions and the funding
development. But do you tell us what you're telling them?
Yes. And Dave Swallow, please.
As MJ mentioned, we have $2.1 billion, thank you, $2.1 billion in the capital improvement program for the next 10 years. The agencies are aware of all the money that they have available. There's certain apportionments based on the relative population and value of each jurisdiction that's put into a combined formula. And so on any given year, the agencies may have a little bit more capacity, or in some years they might be in debt relative to their proportions. So, one year they might be down, and then the next year they're back up. So it's just basically the way they program their projects over that 10-year period. And they are aware that they have this capacity.
Great, thank you. We go to the next slide and talk about jobs. This graph shows...
Let me just follow up. So if I want something done in Clark County, can I go to the Public Works guy and say, look, I see we got $200 million here, let's get to work on it?
Yes.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. This graph shows job creation numbers from roadway funding projects since 2014. In FY 2021 alone, more than 1,000 jobs have been created. Since inception, there has been more than 10,800 total jobs created. And then for a quick snapshot at all roadway funding sources as of December 31, 2020, 522 projects have been awarded, 275 have been completed. 78 local small businesses have been put to work. With the launch of our new RISE program, we expect this number to go up. More than $1 billion has been spent on roadway projects, and more than 10,800 jobs have been created. Just as a reminder, all 225 initial FRI funding projects were completed at the end of 2019.
And I apologize for interrupting, but so with these small businesses, do we have an obligation or some type of a program to promote diversity, making sure that these businesses are not just the typical businesses?
Absolutely.
And do we have a diversity director, or how do we monitor that?
If I could, we have what's called the RISE program that we just initiated, working both with local small and diverse businesses and having those classifications depending on the business type. And we also specified in our contracts that at least 8% of the value of the contracts should go to local small or diverse businesses. And for professional service contracts, at least 2% go to the local small and diverse businesses.
2%.
2% doesn't sound like a lot.
It's an absolute minimum, and we certainly encourage them to go well above and beyond that, and many of the contractors and the prime consultants have done that.
Thank you.
And Commissioner, we will continue to update this board on the statistics related to this program, and so we'll make sure that you're aware of that and exactly the companies that are benefiting from this.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, through you, if I may, because of the drop in traffic, I mean, we're still heavily congested, but it's much better. Is there any way that we're expediting the road repair construction to take advantage of this time because of COVID and all the restrictions? So we are, I see you, I can't see you smiling, but I can see your eyes.
I see my eyes smiling. Yes, Mayor Goodman. In many cases, the fact that there are lower volumes have helped, but the volumes are, we had an initial dip, which helped expedite some of the work, but as you saw from the graphs, it came back up to about 90% of what it was just last year. And so where there were opportunities, particularly on the Strip, there was a lot of work done with that water line while the traffic went down.
If I may, Madam Chair, through you, how about, I mean, I know it's costly because you're doing overtime, but evening shifts and working, again, because the Strip's basically closed, there's not that same number of vehicles on the roads. Are our contracts being let to do nighttime work and let us, the rest of us who work during the day?
In particular on our major roadways, and it's really the jurisdictions that decide that, but on our major roadways, it's oftentimes that they may require night work to not interfere with traffic during the peak during the daytime.
Well, I know you have to be sensitive to residential areas, but I just thought, my goodness, when you go out at night and look around, it's so different, and how great to be able to work 24/7, and except Sundays, forget that we can go ahead and take advantage of this by moving contracts up. But I didn't know if you had that ability, since it's public and federal dollars you're moving around.
I can chime in on the county side. We did do that immediately when COVID started and we saw the immediate drop in traffic on the Strip in particular. We advanced those contracts and extending the time that contractors work on it. Yep.
Excellent.
And it keeps people employed, which is wonderful.
Right, yeah, we want to keep our people at work or move
Mark,
back,
is
but-
that,
Yes, my comments are,
just for the benefit of our board members, you do this quarterly, so you provide us with an update. So you'll see this information coming back to you once a quarter. And I think we also have a finance committee meeting that meets and works with you on that as well.
right.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Members who aren't here, who are calling in, any questions or comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on, Ms. Maynard.
I'll
Great.
make a motion to approve the report.
This, I don't think we need a motion, Greg.
Yeah, this doesn't-
Yeah, it's for information only.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Just a quick reminder that we will be taking, so we're on to item 41. It's a reminder that we'll be taking item number 40, the closed door session, after the final citizens' participation. Item 41 is our standing legal item. There are no matters to bring before this commission, so we will move on to the next item, which is item 42, to conduct your final citizens' participation period.
Thank you, Ms. Maynard. As mentioned before, this meeting is being held without the benefit of physical location for the public to attend. To allow for public participation, the RTC has been accepting public comments via email at publiccomments@rtcsouthernevada.com. Do we have any comments via email to read on the record?
Yes, we do, Madam Chair. We have 2 public comments.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Stephanie Versnick, and again, I am testifying before you for the 35th time. I am a mom speaking on behalf of my son Christian, who does not drive due to his autism. I live a half-mile outside of the service area. I continue to testify each month, and for almost 3 years, I have been asking this RTC Commission to expand the service area in this community. We have been in a pandemic, and I know that this community is struggling. I get it. However, even in a pandemic, people with disabilities still need to have access to transportation. Transportation is an essential service. It is not a luxury. People with disabilities still need to go to work, doctor's appointments, and grocery stores. People continue to live their lives the best way they can. Many people are suffering, and not having transportation should not be one of the things that they worry about. It's an essential service. We all need transportation. Until this commission expands the service area, which in my opinion is long overdue, I will continue to testify and ask this commission to develop an affordable premium service plan option for people who live outside of the service area. For almost a year, I have asked this commission to develop a plan and add it to the agenda as a voting item. In the last 11 months, I have not heard from anyone on this commission regarding my request. With all due respect, when Commissioner Brown stated last month that all my requests have been addressed, I respectfully must disagree. I would also like to comment on a few other things that was said last month in Commissioner Brown's last comments. I am here each month as a mom to get transportation for my son. Again, with all due respect, sir, I am not here to be commended for advocating for my son, nor am I here to have your empathy or the empathy of this commission. I take time out of my day each month to be my son's voice until his needs are met. I will continue to testify for services that is rightfully his. As a private citizen, this is the only way to voice my request. Due to COVID, it is not safe to testify in person, and in this virtual world, we are limited to 500 words if we want our full testimony to be read at public comment. I continue to hope that in the near future, this commission will prioritize the needs of this community and make people with disabilities without transportation a #1 priority. Again, I am requesting to have a proposed affordable premium service plan added to February's agenda and ask this commission to be prepared to discuss and vote. I am once again hoping that my request is recognized and not ignored for the 11th time. Next one's from Ms. Robin Kincaid. Happy New Year. My name is Robin Kincaid, and this is the 28th time I have come before this commission regarding the need to change paratransit service area back to the 2011 configuration. Several advocates like myself have experienced criticism for speaking up to help persons with disabilities create a life that many of you would want for your own children. We will continue to inform and educate the commission on the needs of persons with disabilities. Part of supporting sustainable economic growth for our community is to include persons with disabilities as part of the growth. We must find a way to meet the needs of persons with disabilities by providing them access to essential services. It's critical that we visit the configuration of the service area and determine how we can reconfigure the shape of the map to eliminate inlets that contain essential services such as post offices, cemeteries, churches, and doctors' offices. As the valley expands, the access for persons with disabilities continues to shrink and results in fewer choices and opportunities for persons with disabilities. In the January 2020 meeting, Mayor Goodman brought up the concept of a premium rate to be able to address the needs of individuals that cannot get service. This might apply to either a person with disability who does not live in the service area or might have to access a business, new friend, or relative that moved outside of the service area. Please place this proposal on the February 2021 agenda for consideration. The Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada received $128,624 in grant funding from the Federal Transit Administration to educate the community about transportation options and available technology for a touchless transit experience. Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act 2021 brought $27 million to Nevada for transportation entities. We need this unexpected funding that RTC is receiving to be used to improve services for all Nevadans, including people with disabilities. In prior testimony, I have brought to the Commission's attention that prior day text alerts that are sent to paratransit customers are in military time. I am requesting that you communicate in AM/PM time. RTC has offered to provide some training to my daughter, but that has not occurred. It is difficult to understand why it is necessary to use a system that adds to confusion and creates chaos for persons with developmental disabilities. Please reinstate the ride check system that was lost when paratransit vendor changed to MV. Part of the lack of transparency was that the public was not informed that they would have to wait 9 months to be able to have real-time information that was available with the previous vendor. I am also asking that you revisit the public comment process and implement a call-in process. A new year reminds us that we need to work together to make our world a better place. I urge you to consider my public comments. Please question the information that you receive from staff to ensure that you make decisions that support all Nevadans. And this concludes your public comments.
Thank you, Maren. That concludes the public comment period, and we'll move on to the next item, which MJ is the closed session.
Yes, Madam Chair, the final item is to go into closed-door session to discuss confidential matters related to the SEO contract negotiations.
Thank you. So do we need to shut down some of the technology at this time?
It-
Okay.
Yes, yes.